Did you know that according to litteringitcostyou.org, every year $11.5 billion is spent cleaning up litter in just the United States alone? Litter has a very large impact due to the fact that it does not only affect the life of animals, but it also affects the life of humans, while having repercussions both financially and environmentally. While this number is extremely high, there are ways that we can decrease it. The most cost-effective way of reducing litter is by implementing recycling programs, such as Adopt a Highway or simply just throwing your trash away. So you may be asking, how exactly does littering affect wildlife and animals? Well, take marine life for example. Say you have a simple water bottle and you throw it on the ground. When it rains, there's a high chance that it will end up in a stream, and streams eventually lead to the ocean. And as all of the litter piles up in the ocean, it creates large islands of garbage. So, instead of throwing your plastic water bottles on the ground, find a recycling container and simply throw it away. An article called WCFN.org states that these large islands are called garbage patches. There are a total of 5 known garbage patches throughout the oceans. And it is found that they are primarily made up of tiny pieces of plastic that are approximately 5 millimeters or less in size. These islands are major hazards for sea life. So, this type of litter causes death among many animals due to the waste in the environment that was primarily placed there by humans. And according to an article called The Effects of Littering on Humans, Animals, and the Environment from conserveenergyfuture.com, waste is very dangerous to the animals. Animals eat materials that they find and end up getting poisoned. This also happens when an animal drinks water that is filled with trash and chemicals, due to the fact that the chemicals cause it to become polluted. The chemicals in waste cause sickness and possibly even death. So, say an animal decides to consume trash, and it disrupts their digestive system. It can cause a very slow and painful death due to the fact that it is stuck and they are unable to digest the materials. Take, for example, this simple plastic bag. This especially has a large impact on marine wildlife. According to WCFN, plastic bags kill over 100,000 marine animals every year. This is said to be due to the fact that when they float through the water, they look like jellyfish. So, as well as being exposed to these chemicals, animals are more susceptible to diseases, and they tend to spread rapidly due to the simple tiny mosquito. This is due to the fact that they breed in polluted water that contains chemicals and litter. They go and they get all of the infections, and then they go and infect other animals, and occasionally some humans. So, litter can also cause injury to animals. They end up getting trapped or injured. Say, for example, there's a broken bottle on the ground. They can get a very serious cut. Or, one of the well-known injuries among animals and wildlife when it comes to litter is animals getting their heads stuck in the plastic rings that wrap around plastic pop bottles. So, litter has a significant and detrimental impact on wildlife. Not only does it impact animals, but it also affects humans as well. Every single day, people's lives are impacted by litter in more ways than are obvious to the eye. The article from conserveenergyfuture.com states that companies are hiring individuals to clean up this litter, but in order to do so, they have to have a source of money. They get this source of money from taxing citizens. So if you think about it, it means that even those who do not litter have to pay for the price for those who do. Personally, I don't think the allocation of this cost is fair for the simple reason that, like many, I myself choose not to litter. Litter is found to carry diseases, and it becomes a breeding ground for a bunch of bacteria, and these diseases can cause poor health to cities and possibly even death. So, rusty materials and dirty glass, for instance, can cut into the skin, causing infections, such as tetanus, due to the pathogens that are found on the surface. Also, there is a litter pile in drainage systems, so when it all piles up, it causes pressure, and eventually pipes will begin to burst, costing money that people typically do not want to have to spend. And since this is true, most litter, including cigarette butts, are known to be fire hazards. An article from sciencing.com states that litter accumulation below trash cans, benches, and under leaves can not only ignite, but can rapidly spread fire. And it is found that once litter begins to collect in a place, people tend to bring their own litter and dump it at that site. The Journal of Litter and Environmental Quality goes into detail about a group that conducted an experiment to show how certain types of litter and the presence of litter influences the type and the amount of disposal behaviors from people who are in the area. This experiment drew on previous research that provided an insight into how the presence of litter led to further littering. Some objectives of this experiment were to identify the impacts of beacons and other litter items observed from littering behaviors, and also the types of litter that will be dropped at these sites. These experiments were conducted at main retail locations, typically chosen by how many people were to travel through that location daily. They chose 2 locations in Hackney, London. Litter was purposely placed 2 meters apart. At each site, there was approximately 25 pieces dropped initially. And after 72 hours of observation, approximately 1,627 items were found to be dropped. And over a third of them were just cigarette butts. As we have seen, over a 72-hour period, almost 2,000 pieces of garbage were carelessly littered. And this is why the dollar amount spent on cleaning up the litter in the United States every year is so high. As I stated in the beginning, according to adoptahighway.com, the annual cost of litter cleanup is $11.5 billion, in which businesses are found to pay approximately 80% of that cost, while local and state governments, along with other volunteers and schools, pay the other 20%. So if you think about it, businesses pay approximately $9.3 billion, while state and local governments, as well as schools and volunteer groups, pay approximately $3.2 billion every year. So, what is this $11.5 billion picking up? Well, it picks up approximately 50 billion pieces of trash alongside the road. I did some math, and this equated to approximately 7,000 pieces of trash for every mile of the highway. Also, this litter is not very easy to clean up due to the fact that each piece is found to be approximately 4 inches or less in length. So imagine this all ending up in your room, while instead you could have just recycled them in the first place. Recycling programs, while costly, are one of the most effective ways of litter cleaning up the environment. The Journal of Environmental Quality goes into detail about how education is a very important part of creating a solution for litter problems. This article shows other schools and their programs that highlight how litter education has had many positive effects on people's education, considering the knowledge, skill sets, values, and attitudes about litter. Cases were provided to demonstrate the benefits to people in their community as a whole. So with all of this information now, as a mindful group, we need to find a more efficient way to drive down this number. We cannot continue to sustain $11.5 billion towards cleaning up litter every year. When you see trash, simply throw it away. You could also take some time to walk along a road and clean up the ditches. This works perfectly along with adoptahighway.com. While browsing this website, I found that they have the option to adopt a mile stretch of highway, where you would then be in charge of cleaning up the ditches for your 1 mile of highway. What if every piece of litter you've ever thrown on the ground throughout your life all of a sudden appeared in your room? Would you be okay spending $11.5 billion cleaning it up? Or would you rather have just disposed of it correctly the first time?